I know. I'm not sure if he really believes, what he's doing or if he's doing it for clout, but either way, it's horrible.
She's perfect in every way, but every word she sounds like Cardi B. With all of the sounds that she makes. Skiddy-yak!
So basically, like she's from the Bronx.
She's from the Bronx, but like ghetto Bronx.
Ah.
I think that you'd be the hot receptionist.
Aw.
Yeah. So like, if Michaela, like I said, when she becomes like a rich doctor, you can work as her receptionist, and that would be like a power play fantasy for you guys.
See, that's a great idea. Actually, she has her own business, her own like.
All right, socks on or socks off at night.
Socks off. You're a fucking weirdo if you wear socks in bed. I'm just saying that.
Who do you text the most?
Besides Carter.
I'm not texting my friend.
Wait, really?
No, we actually don't.
You only communicate through passive aggressive TikToks.
Exactly.
Hello, I'm Collier,
And I'm Elijah.
and this is the
Hopefully Wandering
Podcast. We are so glad you've joined us today. If you are tuning in, which you probably are if you're listening to this, and Elijah, you want to tell us a little bit about what this podcast is? What's it about?
Yeah, we're a podcast of two. We probably describe ourselves as like ex-evangelical, ex-pastors who have embraced the everything else of life. We have started, really, honestly, considering things that were taboo for us and exploring areas of our lives which we weren't allowed to explore. And talking to people who have had different experiences than the very cishet evangelical conservative background that we came from. And we've ended up in a very, very different place than where we started. And we hope that if you listen along, and even if you don't inherently agree with everything we talk about or everything that our guests share, that we can at least develop an understanding of who they are, get to know them for what they believe and what they think, as well as just develop empathy and sympathy for everyone else. We just like to explore ideas and thoughts and love on each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're tuning in, come along, wander with us. We're so glad you've joined to listen today.
Welcome back to season 2.
Season 2, episode 2. 2-2.
Yay.
Got those
we've done
angel numbers with the 2-2, whatever. I'm not sure
2-2.
what that means, but it must mean something good.
We'll wait till episode 22. That's really when it's gonna.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do like a special something for that.
Yeah, season 2, episode 22, definitely.
What are we drinking
today? Right now I'll probably get like a refill somewhat through. So we got this dream flavored Coke.
Is it nasty?
It's not bad actually. It's a little bit like flat right now because we got it yesterday or something.
Yeah.
I forgot when. It's so weirdly enough, it tastes like a Coke version of Baja Blast. So like it's actually pretty good. It's weird though. It's like not as crispy as Baja Blast. It's like darker.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like darker, maybe almost like even sweeter in a way.
What?
Like in like a duller sweet type of way, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So I just put a little bit of bourbon in that bottle, and then
okay,
I might get something else later. But
yeah,
that's it.
I've got
what are you
some
drinking?
Lovely throat coat tea inside of a please and thank you mug.
Good.
I'm coming down.
Coat the throat.
Yeah, no, I had it really, really, really bad my freshman year. And then again, really, really bad my senior year of college, laryngitis. I mean, like, horrible laryngitis. Like a month, my voice was out. And I'm just coming on the other side of it. And I can talk pretty well, but you can hear a little phlegm in my throat. So, the throat coat helps numb the pain.
Oh, for sure. Good. Taking care of yourself. We like to see that.
Bro, those Ricola that you gave me before you left.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Use the whole bag. Use the whole second bag.
Damn.
This is the third bag.
Oh, my God. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad that's working then.
Yep. I was doing like 5 or 6 a day when you
Mm.
left at work.
Dude, yeah, I hate that. I feel like, I mean, I know it's not just allergies for you, but I feel like almost everyone I was talking to at the start of this fall was having like horrible, horrible allergies and
Yeah.
like little infections, just random little things, like not like necessarily flu or laryngitis, but just weird, like intense allergies or sinus infections and
Right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah, I went to the doctor. I thought I had COVID again. I legit did.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "You don't have COVID. You don't have the flu. You got some kind of virus." And it was like a stomach virus. Like I was going to the bathroom a lot. But apparently when you get viruses, it can trigger other things. So whenever I get a real bad virus, it triggers laryngitis.
Oh shit,
So
that
I had
sucks.
mono when I first got laryngitis, and that's what triggered it originally.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's awful.
But it's all good.
Damn. Well, that sucks. Yeah. Well, so this episode is going to be pretty Elijah focused, an Eli episode. Um, so last episode, season 2, episode 1, I kind of gave a little bit of a recap on my past year and sort of where I am spiritually and just kind of what my thoughts have been there. This time we're gonna do that with like Elijah, and he's gonna share his goings on in this past year, kind of where he is, what he's been thinking, what he's been doing. Um, so yeah, um beyond laryngitis, Elijah, what have you been up to like recently, like this week or weekend, and then we'll go into kind of what the last year's been like.
So, I think we talked about it last week when we recorded, but I'm really, really invested in our campaign right now, the one that we're in together. It's like reaching a peak, and it's not. There's so much you don't even know. I try not to talk about it. It's going on so good.
Yeah.
This morning, Taylin and I met up with a couple of her friends for med school. We went to an Asian, like a Chinese place, and we got a dim sum, which is like soup dumplings. They had a soup dumpling brunch. They only do them on weekends because apparently it's a lot of prepare work. Absolutely delicious. And then Taylor and I watched a really cool movie last night.
Oh, what was it?
I'm gonna recommend it to you, and it's gonna come out of left field. It's a DC animated movie. It's called Superman Red Sun. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so. No.
So here's the premise. Like in the original comics, Superman landed like after World War II, like 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
This is what if Superman, instead of landing in like Smallville, Kansas, what if Superman landed in communist Russia during the Cold War?
Okay.
Play that out.
Yeah, that sounds really cool actually. So does he get like adopted by a communist Russian family too? And
They turn him over
Okay.
to the state,
yeah, okay.
and then Joseph Stalin adopts him.
Oh, damn. Oh, that sounds so interesting. Yeah,
So
I need to watch that.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
We love our communist savior. Or does he still turn American? Is he
You'll have to watch it and find
is he
out,
just
buddy.
inherently capitalist? He's just like born
You'll-
with it.
No. He's very commie.
Well, cuz
but-
I feel like he was kind of commie, like the American version of a communist in a way, like he was the Superman story, like he was always, he was an alien in America and was always very different to like say Captain America's values. I know different worlds, but like
I always viewed Superman as less politically interested than like Captain America. So like specifically when you get into like the Avengers and Justice League type stuff, you have to think about the politics of that. Like, does Superman police terrorism? Does he police petty theft? Does he police international conflicts? Or does he police only extraterrestrial or supernatural conflicts? What is ethically bound by that?
hmm.
It's kind of a really, really blurry
well,
line.
and I guess that's the thing is I guess he seemed like not capitalist in the way because he wasn't as concerned, I think, with the politics, the money, and everything. He was
That's
more
because he
concerned
was
about
raised in
making the world a
Smallville,
better
Kansas.
place.
Right.
Yeah.
But imagine a Superman who at the age of 11 is turned over to Joseph Stalin as his adopted father.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. That sounds super interesting.
Really good. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes. It's a good watch.
Okay. Nice.
So
nice.
small recommendation out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Starting that out
Um,
strong with recommendations.
Yes. But we watched it. It was really good. And it actually did make you think a little bit about like, this is something that we'll get into some with the story, but like,
Mhm.
I really enjoy media where the lines between the heroes and the villains are blurred based on perspective, which is why I adore shows like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, because they don't try to say that there's a very hard line, good and evil. Like it's not an all or nothing type of thing.
Right. You're
I
right.
like that. Yeah, and I mean everyone does. Usually, most people think that they are the good guy in their own eyes. So there are always perspectives to be shown, and I think when media does that well, especially, it can be really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. And the later you get in the show, the less lines are blurred. But yeah, media is a good avenue for it. And so I enjoy that, and that's why I enjoyed that movie specifically because I like media that makes you think. Probably the
Mhm.
same reason we like the Scythe books, American Gods. The hero is very non apparent.
Yeah, definitely,
So,
definitely. Cool. Well, so Elijah, then, catch us up on what's happened this last year. Kind of. I mean, you can take it where you want, but physically, locationally, career, whatever. Like,
yeah.
how have things been going? Just like catch us up a little bit, like a brief update on your life, and then if you want to roll that into your spirituality and stuff, you can, or we'll just keep going. However it goes, we'll follow the paths, I guess.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna catch up from the first my deconstruction episode 5, I
Mhm.
think it was. I was living in an apartment in Shelbyville, Kentucky, working third shift maintenance at GE Appliances in Louisville. And over the last year, it's really been a time of just discovering who I am apart from like the religious identity. Because as you know, Collier, when you drop that like evangelical identity, it really feels like you don't know who you are anymore.
Definitely.
It is, and I don't want to like heteronormative turn this into, but like it feels like coming out of the closet. It really, I mean, that's the closest experience I can like relate it to, is like you reveal this identity that is so backwards to everything you've known and very few people understand unless they've also gone through it. That's what it felt like. And so when I came out like on the podcast, I was hesitating so much on everything I said. Like, guys, I know like this is really hard for me to accept, blah, 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 blah. I share this, I share that. But like over the last year, it's just been normalizing those things that I said then into my life. So like the last year, I have developed like a friend group who just chooses to be around each other because they like each other's presence.
Mhm.
I just like hanging out with you and Michaela. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, it's different than the pressure to like be the family of the church, and like I feel like it was hard for friendships there to be like as deep because you felt like you had to. I don't know. You had this like pressure that you had to be a family or something, even if you didn't really play that out.
Right. And I have to tell you whenever I masturbate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so when you do it naturally and like you
Yeah.
just like being with your friends, you like forming this familial bond, then
And if I don't want to tell you shit, I don't have to.
totally.
Yeah, so it's like it has been a year of learning to live healthily selfishly, if that makes sense.
I
So
like that.
I was starting a career to try to go into some sort of like senior leadership I was doing a master's in like organizational leadership through a Christian university, and it was just too like Christ-centric, and I know that's so terrible to say, but I don't really care anymore. And it was not focusing on like the actual content of like what like organizational leadership is. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So I've started a master's in marriage and family therapy, which I'm really enjoying so far. We're learning like psychopathology and diagnosing right now. Great course. Really hoping to do therapy full time here in a couple years, like once I get some experience under my belt. I met a wonderful girl about at the same time. Started the podcast named Taylin. Most of you guys already know her, but Taylin and I moved in together in July, and it's just been amazing. And so if you had told me a year ago I would have been making that decision, I would have been like, oh my God, my parents will kill me, my grandparents will kill me, and my church family will judge me. But I don't really care now because it is selfishly the best choice for me. And if they want to judge me because of it, they can. But like, do you know really, like at the end of the day, unless you're in like a religious cult, which maybe kind of, how many people are actually going to like sit down with you and try to tell you what you're doing is wrong? Most people just like going to judge you behind your back and not say anything to your face. Just being real. No one cares that much. So just do what you do for you.
And if they do care, then they like usually won't start a fight with you because I feel like both of us are pretty blessed or privileged with understanding and families that like love us and want to be in relationship with us. And you know, even when sometimes it may feel like their religion or their beliefs, other people might say that they don't feel fully like love. Like at least they're not going to, you know, outright just condemn you and yell at you and start a fight. Like they'll still try to have relationships with us, and maybe it looks like putting boundaries up and not talking about stuff. But yeah, like your parents, you know, helped you move in with your girlfriend, you know, and like I've seen so many people online that are going through similar things, that whether it be that they are like queer and they're in a relationship with someone
exactly
of the same sex, or they're trans, or just they're moving in with their heteronormative partner, and then their parents or grandparents like blow up and are just nasty at them and like refuse to talk to them. I feel like our families don't do that, you know, like
right.
Sure, they'll be sad about our choices, and that's like the burden that we have to bear, is like figuring out, I guess, like how we deal with their sadness, but like they don't force all that on us.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, if you don't want to talk about this, is fine. But I want to shout out your dad for a second. Like, I know your father specifically may disagree with like some of our choices, like, you know, when it comes to religious experiences, but he has never outright verbally said it, and he's even acknowledged like the hurt that is not Christian that's come from our experiences, and he's able to acknowledge the hurt and the pain without turning it into a moment of ministry. He says, if you ever want to come back, you can. I'd love to talk about it, but it still sucks that this stuff happened to you. And I really appreciate that from your dad.
Yeah, definitely. No, you can give a shout out to him for sure. I mean, he talked to us about like just kind of, you know, apologizing for the church hurt and stuff like that. And sometimes when people do that, they then turn it into a like, that was people, not God, so therefore it's stupid of you to have left, you know. But he didn't do that. He just left it at the, I apologize, I hate that you've been hurt, you know.
Yeah, you know what my dad did?
What's that?
He said, "Son, I'm proud of you. I want to give you this gun that belonged to your granddad."
Hey, that's good. That's good too.
And I'm like, thanks. Bonding, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that was sweet, right? Like that was the one you showed me that was like a super old revolver.
No, no, it's a different one.
Oh, a different one? Oh, okay. I haven't seen it then.
No, I don't want to turn this into like what the podcast is about.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but it has like my grandfather's name engraved on it, and he was given it as like a gift for working at his company, and so it's like a family heirloom thing. So he's like, "This is passing on the mantle to you, son." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I'll sit in the closet."
Yeah, nice.
But so you canceled. I'm sorry. But yeah, so all that goes to say, I appreciate your dad specifically for like saying that. So because I love my dad a lot too, but he's not like a touchy-feely guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He shows it in a different way, and I just appreciate how your dad did it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate that too, and like, yeah, it's been good, definitely. It's like I said, I think that both of us are kind of more fortunate than some of the other people that are in this type of community. So I definitely think that's something that we shouldn't take for granted. You know, the fact that we are able to have these relationships still and not like have to go through the difficult times of completely cutting everyone off and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so you said you've been living healthily, selfishly. I love that phrase. And
Make a note for the quotes later on, right?
Exactly. Yep. And so, yeah, getting back to your life then. So you've been doing that. You moved in with Taylor and you started the master's program.
Yeah.
Um,
One more
yeah.
thing I want to add to the current life experiences, and this can probably transition a little bit into like the next topic. Over last year, I have tried to drop the hateful atheist stereotype. Even though I wouldn't like qualify myself as quite like atheist by any means. Well, some means. But I'm trying not to be like flip-flop. Because if you watch, I mean, just hop on YouTube and like search like Richard Dawkins. A guy who knows so much. Or what's the other guy who did a lot of debates who passed away recently?
Christopher Hitchens.
Christopher Hitchens. Very, very knowledgeable, intelligent man. But I don't feel like he's respectful and he cares too much about what people who don't give a fuck think.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hateful atheists out there who are just as bad in some regards as like Westboro Baptist.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that like, especially on Twitter, I've seen some either progressive Christians or even just kind of like agnostics that have come that are in a similar place as us, you know, talking about God. Like I think a lot of John Steingard's tweets. I don't know if you followed him, and he's been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, John Steingard from Hawk Nelson. He's been posting a lot on Twitter about his different explorations into deism, theism, God, arguments for and against God, and moralism, reality, all that type of stuff. And there will be some tweets that I'm like, oh, that's just a like super conservative Christian that's being an asshole, that's like got his head buried in the sand. But then I like read more of that what that tweet's saying, and it's an atheist that's doing the exact same fucking thing, like burying their head in the sand and just like repeating some arguments that are just like calling everything that he's trying to do philosophically like stupid and like a non-starter.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, why would you do that? Why would you like want to be so dogmatic in that way about your atheism then?
Exactly. And you've stayed out of that stereotype a little better than myself, even though I think you have more maybe radical views than me. And I don't know, maybe it's just our personalities, but like I would say for a 6-month time period, I was very like anti-Christian.
Yeah. Well, I made an alt account, so that's what I. That's
true. It's true. Well, you like.
I was a little bit more anti-Christian on that account, but
That's fair.
But even on that account, I was still somewhat nuanced because, yeah, it's just more who I am, I guess.
but okay, but let's say on the podcast specifically, I would ask more targeted questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that I was more. You were putting your frustrated, hateful atheist side of you on the alt account, whereas I was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna tell you.
Hmm.
Now I don't really feel obligated to go out of my way to argue about it.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I almost stopped at like a street preacher the other day, and I was like,
Oh, really?
yeah, he was preaching
Mhm.
like out in a parking lot at a Kroger, and I was like, honestly, what's gonna come of this conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
If he
I
is,
know.
if he's at the point radicalized enough to go out to a parking lot in Kentucky to try to preach about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and he was preaching specifically about like the 7 deadly sins, and I was like, oh
Mhm.
God, this guy, yeah. But trying to be conversational and
Mhm.
intelligent without being radical. So
No, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah, and so, I think when you did your first deconstruction episode, I don't think that you were super like hateful atheist then, because like you said, you were more like guarding what you thought. So yeah, like what are your thoughts about episode 5 when you listen back to it, or when you think about what you said?
yeah, so there's definitely like a progression. There's like 3 phases. There's the coming out slowly, and that's what that first deconstruction episode was about. It was very timid. It was
Mhm.
very like, please God, don't be real and don't zap me, sending me to hell, obliterating me in this moment. But I actually kind of think that if like I had a hookup on Tinder, maybe it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe if I don't go to church, it's okay.
Mhm.
Maybe God's not real. Maybe all the spiritual guilt that I should be feeling from not going to church is just the traumatic experience that they've put onto me rather than a divine guilt in my life. Why did we feel guilty when we looked at porn?
Mhm.
When we were horny 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, I don't know, whatever. Why do we feel guilty?
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought that that was like just the fact of life. It was like um when I masturbated to porn, it was like, oh my god, like of course, and I feel guilty. That's like divine revelation that it was bad, that I should not have done that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think I'm sure you would agree the way that our feelings on that have changed post thinking that God's watching your every step. It's like, oh wait, that wasn't bad. I don't have to feel bad about that. That's pretty great. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Full transparency, full stop.
Mhm.
I don't really watch porn anymore because
Mhm.
I am in a relationship where I don't really feel the need to anymore. But honestly, if I was single, I might.
Yeah.
Just because like I wouldn't be like regularly expressing myself sexually, and it would provide me an outlet while like exploring my sexual interests. But the same way I view like alcohol and maybe marijuana, like there's like using it and then there's like using it. And for me, looking back on like where we were, I think we almost fetishized like that stuff because they told us it was bad.
Yeah. No, I think so. And they didn't also have there wasn't much of a gray area, or there wasn't even, it was like a hard line of like either you're sober or you're an alcoholic, basically.
Exactly. There's no in between
Mm-hmm.
at all.
And for all that stuff, yeah, it was like either you're completely pure or you're completely damned. And,
Right.
Yeah, that's just not really healthy, because then when you do cross that line to trying it once, then like I think it creates a much more unhealthy relationship to any vice that can be bad.
Yeah. I mean, this is a hot take here, but if you're already like, let's take alcohol for example. You're an evangelical Christian. You may even be like, let's say you're Southern Baptist, and your denomination teaches that consuming alcohol is sinful, just completely. You drink at a party over the weekend, you get drunk, and you're like, oh shit, I messed up. Well, if I messed up, I might as well mess up. If I'm already sinning, why not make it count? Then maybe you get alcohol poisoning, or you do something dumb. It leads to something else because you already messed up within the black and white dichotomy. And so that first episode was acknowledging that there might be like a gray area, and that was really difficult. So then my second phase...
Was it difficult for you because of like external pressure, because of trying to please family or people that knew you from the church, or was it like in yourself, like you didn't, were you not feeling sure in yourself?
It was perceived external pressure. Like they're definitely like obviously my family and my old church family would rather me not be down this path, clearly.
Sure, yeah.
But at the end of the day, how many people, and we'll talk about this later, how many people have actually reached out to us and actually pleaded like a real case?
I mean, reached out to us like what, 3?
Maybe 3. And those 3 weren't even people that we were close to.
Yeah.
We had 2 teachers. One we met up with and one we decided not to meet up with. And the one we met up with, like, I don't think she made a good case personally. Her case was for the existence of like creationism.
It was for like intelligent design versus not intelligent design, basically.
Right, and that's a scientific argument.
That's a valid. I mean, I can see both sides on that. But I don't see how any of the arguments for intelligent design translate then to the personal God of the Bible. It doesn't.
They don't, because intelligent design can mean anything. Look at Interstellar.
It can mean simulation theory, even like
simulation theory. Look at Interstellar, where humans from the future orchestrate their past. And I know that's crazy thoughts, but no one important in our lives, Collier, has reached out to us. So that nervousness that I was feeling was internal. That was me putting the guilt on myself.
Totally, yeah. And then, you were going to say, so that was the first section, and the second time, or I forgot what word you used, like the second iteration of
era.
Where you're going.
Yes.
Yeah, second era. What was that then?
Oh, the second era was like the I have to stake a claim for myself in the midst of evangelical GOP thought processes. And so I would almost go out of my way to start controversy.
So that's like more of the angry atheist phase that you were talking about?
Yes. And so like even with like my coworkers and stuff, they'd be like, oh yeah, they would say something, or I would say something like, but God's not real, right?
Yeah.
And I would just walk out of the room.
I know you said you made one guy cry because you were talking about like you were presenting him with so many arguments against God or something.
I feel kind of bad. I think I'm gonna strive to be more like your father, where it's like, hey, I'm here for you if you want to talk about it, but if you don't, I'm not gonna push you there because that'll do more harm than it will good.
Yeah, totally. And I think both of us have done a pretty decent job of that too. Like I know we've had a lot of or a few people at least talk to us, send us messages or whatever especially after our deconstruction episodes, but throughout this podcast, they'll discover it, they'll send us some stuff. And most of them are still Christians, and they're just sort of deconstructing the conservative view that they were raised in. And like, I don't think either one of us really has then been like, oh, hell yeah, like fuck God. Like we haven't like really gone to that extreme with those people. I think. I think the ones who have reached out to us, we both have been pretty good about like being there for them, but making sure that we don't say that like what we say is the truth and that we have the way. You need to follow us, or you need to reject God, otherwise it's not valid. Like I don't
Exactly.
think either one of us has done that, have we?
No. Who are we really upset at, Collier? Are we upset at Joe Schmo Christian, who goes to church 2 to 3 times a month and gives maybe 10% sometimes? I'm not upset with him.
No,
Who are we upset at?
no. I mean,
Can't be upset at if we
definitely.
don't believe in God. We can't
Mhm.
be upset at him.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like we're not really upset at God. I mean, yeah. Mostly that. Yeah. I mean, there are so many grifters that I think we've talked about, and we may talk about that new Hulu documentary too about like Jerry Falwell Jr. being a
Exactly.
incredibly transparent grifter.
Yeah.
People like that just like abuse a
Right.
what should be a kind of a sacred faith tradition that can have a lot of good, has a lot of good teachings, and they abuse that for money, for power. And the thing is, I feel like it's the majority of leadership in all of like Christian Western America, though. So that's the thing is like, I'm not saying it's one or two actors. It's like a lot of the actors are abusing it. Even in the
Exactly.
small churches, because it favors abusers if you can just say, oh, well, I repent, so therefore, like, let me preach, even though I'm like a literal predator, Like, those people are who I'm angry at, yeah.
Well, so man,
And the
I'm
people
getting.
who allow it to happen.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're at the end of the day, if we don't believe in God, us personally, can't be upset at him.
Yeah.
You can't be upset at Joe Schmo Christian either, because they're just listening to what their pastor says. And I would argue even some of, maybe even a majority of like the average pastor, the average, may not even be to blame either.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
But when we look at people like Mark Driscoll,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, even Matt Chandler to an extent,
Yeah.
his whole
Now,
situation
the
is
entirety
weird.
of Hillsong leadership.
The entirety of the Hillsong
Yeah.
leadership, Bethel leadership,
Yeah.
fucking Elevation is a cult of personality for Stephen Furtick, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not. Did you see the other day where Dante Bowie was caught like on DaBaby's tour bus or something?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so like Dante Bowie who sings I have the authority. I don't remember the names of the song. When I lift my voice and shout. Nah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You are my champion. I don't know if you ever did that one. Champion.
Is it
Okay.
Maverick City or Elevation?
Both.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The song is called Champion. It was really popular about a year or two ago. And so he was like Elevation, Maverick City vibe. He was caught on a tour bus with DaBaby the rapper,
Mm-hmm.
like twerking. And so you can't tell me that they really believe the stuff that they're teaching, I don't think.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Righteous Gemstones is so much more true to reality than people even think. Like a lot of the really rich ones like that are just knowingly doing it for the money. Like they see themselves as celebrities. They see themselves as these powerful people that can't be touched because they have so much money, and they're said to like be the voice of God. So yeah, like it's ridiculous. Well, getting back on topic with your story,
Yeah,
though.
sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, you said the second phase of sort of where you're going, your deconstruction, deconversion, and everything was that sort of being controversial. Did you want to share any more about that, or how you kind of got out of that to the third phase that you mentioned?
Yeah, the third phase is just where I'm at now, where it's just
Mhm.
like I have my thoughts and opinions, and honestly, they don't matter that much. I don't use religion as a way to define myself anymore.
Yeah.
And you learn that your identity is not really about any of the things you used to think it was about. Um, I don't identify with like what I do for work right now because I kind of hate it right now. It just pays the bills.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to identify myself with what I'm going to do in the future, but like the things I'm going to use to identify myself are like I'm Taylor's partner. I am someone who cares about people. I'm Collier's friend. I'm someone who does a podcast. I'm not really going to identify myself as I'm a Democrat or a Republican or my political party. I'm not going to identify it with
Mm-hmm.
religious things. I'm going to identify it with very, very small, specific things because they're tangible things in which you can interact with rather than large ideas that are ever changing and you have no control over it.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the smallest things like that are, I mean, really, that they're kind of the easiest to see, and they're the ones that are going to stay constant in whatever other labels that you have on you. You know,
Exactly.
if you come back to Christianity, if you become, Buddhist, if you become Republican, Democrat, whatever type of label at all that you would put on you there, you can keep those other labels of, you're a partner to Taylor, and you're a friend to me, you're a lover of these things,
Yeah.
you're a podcaster, you're creative, you're this and that, like
Yep.
those things that aren't really going to change that much.
No. And if they do, they're like personal things, so it doesn't really matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could stop enjoying bourbon and it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I do like bourbon,
Mhm.
but like it's okay.
Do you feel any pressure to label yourself with like specific identities then, or with specific big labels?
Sometimes
Like
I think it'd be
currently?
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is jumping ahead a little bit. But like the question I asked you the other day last week, like if someone approached you on the street to ask you about like what would you identify yourself religiously? What are your thoughts on religion? I would say an agnostic who defaults to atheism would be like what I would tell them. But like I would question them like, would your opinion of me change based on my answer? Or does what matter is the way that I care about people and ideas?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we may dislike someone because they identify themselves as Baptist, hypothetically. Someone be like, hey, I identify as Southern Baptist. And we will make snappy judgments about them because of it. But obviously, I disagree with their theological ideas. But like, what if they're actually a good person?
Yeah,
And there
totally.
are.
Oh, definitely. Like so many. That's the thing. Like I mean, I've had to like walk that a lot because I have a specific like vendetta against Southern Baptists because
Oh, me too, though.
the school I went to, was the Southern Baptist Seminary, and
Yeah.
I hate so much of what they put out in the world.
But do you hate those people, or do you hate...
Yeah, like I have so many good friends, and like I saw a lot of them this year from that school, and so many of them are just lovely people, and they're when we hung out, we weren't talking about our faith, and we were just able to hang out together, to talk, to like catch up on life, to to hug each other, to like smile, to laugh together, those type of things.
Exactly.
And yeah, so like I found myself, when I was hanging out with them, still like kind of battling that. I was like, they're Southern Baptist, but like I like them, and it was had to fully kind of accept the fact that like I'm not going to, even though I hate so much of what the SBC stands for,
Yeah.
and so much of the leadership, like that doesn't have to affect the relationship that I have with those great friends that I made at the school.
Well, if this is too personal, please let me know. I don't want to talk about it, drag anything up. But your friend who passed away, wasn't he Southern Baptist?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, but
yeah,
the way you care about him so much.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Like, as I never saw him as that label. He wasn't I would not, when I thought of him, I would not think Southern Baptist guy, you know?
He's a
I would,
musician. He's a
yes.
creative. He
Mhm.
is
He was a
a
lover.
friend,
He
a
was
lover.
yeah, he was like, yeah, a friend, a family. You know, that's what he was. And those are the labels that I had on him, not what his religion was. So yeah, like I've tried to do that kind of to myself as well, and like with my friends currently, I'm like, okay, I don't have to categorize people then by what their beliefs are necessarily. You know, I mean, if your beliefs are if your beliefs like have to do with like denying people humanity and denying people like basic rights, then you know that's a big deal, and I don't
But
know.
that
That
will-
affects a little bit of the way you see them. But like for other stuff, you know, like what you personally believe about God, I don't care, you know? I care what you believe about me. I care about how you treat me. I care about how you treat others around you.
But here's the thing. Imagine, so like someone ascribes to like, again, we're just going to use like Southern Baptist theology, for
Mhm.
example. Maybe that would lead to some sexist tendencies. I would argue that if they really believe those Southern Baptist tenets on sexism, that would translate to a more personal attribute about them.
Totally, yeah.
They are, as a person, sexist.
Yeah, like a lot of the people that I met at that school were very
Exactly.
sexist. I have so many examples of some incredibly misogynistic remarks and examples from my friends there that were women that have told me, you know, the way that they felt on campus, and that's yeah, like you said though, a lot of the guys that I was friends with though that didn't have those tendencies, you know, maybe they didn't fully believe, like I didn't, maybe they didn't fully believe some of the doctrines of complementarianism and some of the misogynistic type of ways that that their faith tells them they have to be, and yeah, so like you're right. I think you know if you truly do believe all the things in a certain ideology, then that will translate to how you treat people and what you how you present.
Exactly. Another exercise I want to do, let's take Stephen Furtick.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephen Furtick
Larry?
is Larry. He actually went to Boyce.
Yeah, they
Um,
hate him.
Yeah.
They hate him there,
Which is ironic because they kind of are similar.
They kind of are. Yeah.
I'm just jealous. That's the problem.
Definitely.
But like, so he's the leader of a radical movement of evangelical megachurches sweeping the nations and even the world. But what would you say, based on the things we really know about Stephen Furtick, are the personal attributes that are attributed to him? What do you think? What do you think he is as a person based on what he does?
Oh yeah, like I mean I don't even know.
He's a grifter.
He's definitely knows how to use his personality to get what he wants. Yeah, like and he knows how to exploit people.
He's an
You
exploiter.
know, he knows that. Yeah.
He's selfish. He is a manipulator. And it doesn't have anything to do with what he associates large scale. Because
Mhm.
maybe somewhere deep down he believes those things, but like who he is as a person does not line up with that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the coloring sheets that they had in the children's ministry there. Google Stephen
Yeah.
Furtick coloring sheets.
Stephen Furtick, yeah, the coloring sheets of I was reading through some of the sermon notes one time because I was like in my big fan of elevation phase with worship music back in high school, and
It's
I was
good
Googling
music.
some
That
of
was
the
the hard
stuff.
part.
Oh, it was, yeah, but their music is great. I was looking at some of their sermon notes, and the way that the sermon notes were written, it was like a stenographer basically, or somebody that was like transcribing the notes. But like the way that they would refer to Pastor Stephen and would refer to Pastor Stephen's like steady, and I don't know, it was like almost as if they were like writing scripture about Pastor Stephen, you know, like something about the way, and like I don't have it in front of me, I can't give an exact example, but
yeah.
I just remember like getting that feeling like this is weird the way that they are like pushing the pastor up so high. It seems like the stenographer or this like transcriber is like literally trying to say that we are all like not as worthy as Pastor Stephen is. And
He's the
I
holy
just got
anointed
such a weird
one.
feeling, just reading the sermon notes, you
Yeah.
know, not even like going to the church or doing their curriculum.
Exactly. You can even make it easier. put Mark Driscoll there. Who is Mark Driscoll as a person?
Oh God, yeah. He's just an abuser first and foremost.
Yeah,
in every
right.
possible way. Yeah.
So all the place I'm in now, to go back to the main
Yeah.
question. The place I
Mhm.
am now is attributing aspects to people apart from what they identify with to who they truly are. So, my mother.
Wait, can you say that again?
Okay. What he's got
Attributing what?
yeah. Where I'm at now, instead of judging people based upon what they say they believe, I want to judge them based upon how they act like they believe.
Okay, yeah.
So, especially with religious aspects, there's a lot of Christians who I still love as people. But they don't really act like how their evangelical beliefs say they should, because they actually love people in a way that a good person would, rather than doing what their religion says that they should.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm treating people based upon those attributes rather than their large religious ones, because at the end of the day, caller, you and I are exceptions. With our knowledge of the religion,
Mm-hmm.
we took the deep dive. The
Went to school
average,
for it, yeah.
average person doesn't know or care. So, yeah,
Yeah.
long answer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Totally. No, that's awesome. I mean, I love that. Yeah, because like so many Christians I know, the majority of Christians I know, one thing that I've thought a lot about is um that they're a lot more loving than their God that they claim they believe, that their theology claims they believe, you know?
Right.
Like the fact that they can have loving, good relationships with trans people and accept them and love them and not condemn them at every chance they get and try to be their good friend. Yet, if you're a Christian that does that, that means you're more loving than your God, you know? If your God is going to send them to hell simply for expressing their identity the way they do or not believing in them. And yeah, so they say they believe in that God, but they act much more loving than if they actually believed in the version of the God that they say they believe.
Exactly. Yo, small tangent. Get off topic. Before you ask me the next question, I want to share something.
Mhm.
Taylor's in med school, obviously, right now. And girl is smart. She's powering through it. Good for her, because that shit is hard. But they've went over endorphins and estrogen versus testosterone in a person's body. And the hormonal aspects in the womb to turn someone, because the default for all humans born is female. And then if
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of testosterone exhibited, your genitalia will transition in the womb. I mean, so you're kind of transgender anyways. Transition from female to male in the womb as you're developing.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many factors, minute factors that play into genitalia development versus your brain's functioning, that it's really, really easy. In which I don't want to get into a big debate of if you're born this way or you develop or whatever, because there's so many factors that play into it. I don't think that I can make a comfortable decision. But people easily can be born in a certain way where they're their head has a certain amount of hormones to be attracted to one gender, yet their genitalia can develop a different way and whatnot. Is that there's so many different ways that you can end up being born transgender. Is it's really hard for me to look back to how I ever really denied that before.
Yeah.
Because of how delicate our bodies and gender and sex is.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I feel like learning the smallest bit about the developmental anatomy in the womb is crushes any type of argument about against anything related to any LGBTQIA issues.
There's some really common transgenderisms where a woman will have enough testosterone to where her ovaries will like develop into testes, but they won't like actually like physically change. So she'll be infertile.
Yeah.
Yet her, you know, her brain will still have like enough testosterone hypothetically to maybe be attracted to women. And so it's like, how do you make the choice of like how to live your life then? So it's been really good to go through all of this and like have a lot more sympathy for people. Whereas before being evangelical is like, well, God made man and woman, and that's just how black and white things are. I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
not.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah, real fast. I don't know if you've listened back to your episode. Have you listened back to your deconstruction episode recently?
not recently. I've got to be honest with
Okay.
you, no. But I have listened back to it 2 or 3 times, like
Do
over the last
you
year.
Well, do you have any that you know of, just any specific beliefs or mindsets that have significantly differed from then to now?
I would say that I'm in a place that agrees more with what I said now than a few months ago
Mm-hmm.
because of like the hot takes that I had. Um, because at the time, I came up with a lot of evidence against scripture specifically.
Yeah.
And then I ended the episode with like a half hour to 45-minute rant about how I like had a Tinder hookup and it's okay. And I feel, you know, like I don't, it doesn't really matter. Like the emptiness that comes from like stage performance is not like a worship, like exclusive feeling and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
here's the thing, like me a few months ago was just angry about those things. But me now, I've just become more apathetic. I've got to be honest with you. I don't really care. It was such a big moment for me that now I think I agree with all the things that I said in my deconstruction episode. You know, like I could sit here and talk to you about how scripture is not historically accurate. I can sit here and talk to you about the fallacies for inerrancy. I can sit here and talk to you about like eyewitnesses accounts, the Council of Nicaea. I can sit here and do that, and I still believe in those things. But now, what I choose to do with that information is honestly those things. Instead of like rejecting scripture and running to another thing, is I just kind of live with it now, and kind of live with a curiosity and skepticism duality in all of my aspects of life. The only things that I care about, Collier, are the things that I can touch, hear, taste, smell, and see. Which, if you play that out, buddy, I'm an empiricist, a naturalist. History from 200 years ago might not be real.
Yeah. Dude, I remember, I mean, even just a small tangent, but like I was
Bring it.
it might have been even like a Adam Ruins Everything episode or something like that. They were talking about how the Greek historian damn, was it Eusebius or is that a Christian? No. Fuck. Who was it? Hera something. Heracles? I forget his name.
It's okay.
Whatever Greek historian it was that, like, for example, documented like the Spartan battles and
Oh, yeah,
other yeah, that dude, Herodotus, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Significantly altered like so much of, for example, what like the Persian Empire was like. You know, like he demonized them way more than the historical record seems to say. Like he talked about them as if they were tyrant, but they were like a pretty like egalitarian society that was kind of more equal than Herodotus made it seem, because he was writing from like a kind of Greek nationalist lens.
Right.
But since his was the main history that survived throughout the Western world, that was just accepted as fact for so long that, like, for example, in the movie 300, they, you know, took his writings and, I mean, even furthered the kind of explosive natures of his writings by making like the Persian people like insane, like crazy, like stupid and like terrorists, you know. But in reality, it was just because that was the way it was skewed by the historian that was a nationalist for his own nationality.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I get that. Like
Yeah.
history written that long ago, maybe it's not completely accurate. Like it's hard to say.
History is written by the victors. And
Yeah.
that's just a quote that you can live by. And so I feel relatively comfortable in saying the last 100 years of events are probably accurate in the way that they're written down in the historical textbooks for the most part. But the further you go back, the less reliable it is. I mean, think about like the musical Hamilton. I love that shit. But how whitewashed is it?
Yeah, well, I mean that's modern too. Like that's
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean even the founding, it's like it's almost hard in the United States to get an accurate representation of the United States and of the founding fathers because
Yeah.
it's so whitewashed now.
Like let's say like the Americans kind of won out the Cold War, right? So we know all about the atrocities of like communist dictators. We don't talk about the atrocities that the American government has done all that much.
We don't talk about how the American South or how the American government has like destabilized like the majority of countries in the global South and in South America, especially in Central America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how they basically introduced drugs to our nation to keep a population of minorities under control. Don't talk about that very much.
Nope. Where we were raised, Reagan was basically God.
Exactly. But he introduced cocaine.
You couldn't say anything about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to your story then.
No. All I'm saying is that like I still believe those things about the scripture, but I've applied it to other areas of my life. And so like I don't really care about. I find it interesting to talk about. I sounded like Jordan Peterson. Find it interesting to talk about these things. Yeah, it's fun to talk about.
We got to both like perfect some Jordan Peterson impersonations and just like make this a Jordan Peterson.
So what if I am?
Podcast.
I'm sticking up for young men who may not have a chance with women.
That was good.
Oh my god. Yeah.
What do you mean by chance?
Chance.
What do you mean by women? What do you mean by have?
He's such a poser, dude. Yeah. I only care about the things that I can verify with my own senses. And so it has narrowed my field of view. Because Elijah in that first episode is so worried about existentialism. And he is so worried about one that I've talked a lot with one of my coworkers, name is Bob, is absolute truth. What is absolute truth? There is while I do believe that absolute truth exists, there is no way for you to verify absolute truth with your five senses. So you are left with two choices.
Yeah.
You embrace agnosticism, where you live as if you don't know absolute truth, or you just choose to believe an absolute truth without proof.
Sure. Well, to push back just a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we
please.
do have a little bit of not hard proof, but ways to discover what is real. Basically, just
argue with me. I want to talk about
mathematics and logic.
For sure.
The systems of mathematics and logic. That because those are basically just like the human consciousness. It's our way to try to categorize and say why things are, or like how things are the way that they are.
Right.
Actually, not why. So like in that regard, you can talk about the physical realities of matter that are testable.
Yes. And no,
so
and
you
I
can
agree
do
with
tests
that.
on them in mathematics, science, and logic.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond what they can test, and even the limitations on how far they can test,
and that's what I'm saying.
That, I don't think there's any proof. Yeah.
We talking back to one of the things Hannah said. Everything we know is everything we know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? we are only aware of the things that we can be aware of.
Sure.
So
yeah.
things outside of our awareness, like the divine, I mean, a lot of people, make cases for like feeling the Holy Spirit or hearing God say things to him. But like, man, this is where I am going to make a hot take.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's ever audibly heard God speak.
I mean, yeah, if you don't believe in God, then
Right. And like
I would
feeling
assume
the
not,
Holy
yeah.
Spirit, like feelings are so fleeting.
Yeah. Yeah, which like that's the kind of when you get to that truth, like that's when a phrase that I feel like we detested as Christians, or at least I was taught to detest this phrase, was like your truth and my
Your
truth.
truth, yeah.
But that's where I can validate their truth of I totally believe you had an experience. I totally get that. Now, is that experience brought on by hallucinations, by like a psychotic reaction in your mind? I mean,
Yeah.
I think the brain's such a powerful thing that I think it's very possible to have a lot of experiences of the divine, whether one exists or not,
Yeah.
just completely within your mind. So, but
When-
yeah, so I mean, I don't think so either. I don't think that a personal God exists. So I don't think that like someone has heard audibly.
When you walk into a dark room, Collier, and you can't see anything, what do you think? And you're afraid. Why are you afraid?
Yeah, I can't because I don't know what's out there.
You don't know what's out there, so you start making assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could be someone there, could be a monster, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of how I feel about religion.
Sure. I mean, and even like your eyes can easily trick you into seeing shapes that, like how many times have you seen things that are shapes that when you turn on the lights, they're not, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good analogy. I think that's a very, very similar way to religion, which is why I think being open and curious is a good thing then, because we can be very skeptical about it, but then still acknowledge maybe sometimes those shapes are things. Maybe they're not what we think they are, but
Right.
it's something there. So maybe it's something that we don't know what it is. And the
Absolutely.
unfortunate truth is we will never be able to turn on the light switch of like the metaphysical, like the supernatural world. We won't ever
Yeah.
be able to do that,
Yes.
possibly in death, but maybe not.
Maybe not. I'm more concerned with what I'm going to eat for dinner today than I am about if God exists right now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, no, I like where you are. I like the place that you're at. I mean, that's really neat. I feel like you're unpacking this super, super well too. Like you're making a lot of sense with it. And so like you teased earlier a little bit, someone that sees you on the street. You like to role play, so let's role play this.
God, I do. I
You
love it.
your role play. So you're chained and bound in no. Yeah, say you're just, at the you're at Kaiju, having a good time, getting some amazing like burritos and stuff there, and
God, those kimchi beef burritos.
those incredible like
Those are my God now.
Dragon King's Daughter burritos, so good. So you're having some burritos at that long table, and you're just like you're making some notes in the podcast with me, and someone overhears you or someone sees your notebook, and they kind of ask, and they're like, "Hey, you're talking about religion. Like, what do you think about that? Like, do you don't believe in God?"
Yeah, I would say that probably not. I'm open to if God were to manifest himself to me, but I've never personally had an experience with him. So I would say until I interact with like the divine with my empirical naturalist senses, my five senses, then I have nothing to believe in. So that probably would qualify me as an agnostic. But until they do, I'm going to operate as if there isn't one.
Sure.
So
What if they push back then and they're like, well, why do you think that God, has to like stoop so low to show himself to you specifically and like prove to you like he's God,
Absolutely. And guess what? That is his prerogative not to make himself evident. But I think he's a dick then for like expecting me to believe in his existence.
Yeah.
Without giving me a reason to do that. Nor how do you know any attribute about him if he doesn't make himself evident. So
Mhm.
there's a channel on YouTube, and I really want to reference it. I'm gonna look it up later, and basically, they do like logic videos about religion,
Mhm.
and it talks about deconstruction from a very like naturalist perspective as to why like a young Catholic boy becomes disillusioned with faith growing into adulthood. More of like a natural like
Yeah.
transition rather than us like dropping it overnight. And one of the reasons that they leave faith like in their young adulthood is they come up with a better system to be God themselves than Yahweh is said to do. Like
Yeah.
they like I can imagine myself like if I had the said power of that
Mhm.
deity, I could be a better God than God is said to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, I mean like I was saying with people acting more loving than God is, like I don't know why they just accept that God has to act this way that seems inferior to almost every
Yeah.
like things that almost anyone in this world would imagine like they could do, to be more
Yes.
benevolent, to be better.
You are set up with failure from the beginning.
Yeah.
So God is narcissist and codependent, and he sets you up with failure so that you have to believe in him. There's really no,
Yeah.
they say that it's like a choice, and I agree, it is a choice for faith, but with the dichotomy that the evangelical God sets up, you are forced to put your faith in him with the way that Christians say he acts. So going back to like transgenderism earlier, if you were supposed to live in like abstinence into like a
Mhm.
heterosexual marriage, monogamous marriage, why even have why be born with so many different like sexual dysfunctions or opportunities for like transgenderism from the womb? Why even have sexual urges before you say I do?
Yeah.
Why even have the ability to have anything other than heteronormative sex?
Yeah, I know. Like that's the thing. It's I feel like the kind of catch-all is just saying free will, but then that doesn't really explain it too well.
Exactly. And so he creates you with all of these opportunities to go off the path. And he says, if you love me, you won't act on them though. It's like, oh, so you design us to want these things and to express ourselves in this way, but you hold us back? Why? Because you're
Yeah.
selfish? I don't
I know. Like it doesn't seem yeah, it seems like a pretty dick move,
know.
if you're
Dick move.
gonna uh if you have that power and you set it up that way.
So if the guy pushed back, I'd probably share those arguments and be like,
Yeah,
I don't find that God compelling to worship.
totally. Yeah, that's what I think one of the biggest arguments, which is kind of what you're talking about, is called divine hiddenness. Um,
Divine
that's what like
hedonism.
divine hiddenness.
Hiddenness. Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
hiddenness.
Hiddenness.
Because yeah, just because like the divine is hiding themselves
Is
for
that like an
whatever
actual
reason.
thing?
It's an argument that I think like a lot of more atheist like scholars and stuff, like people who are like apologetics and anti-apologetics, like those type of people use it more as a like a term for the kind of argument that you're describing. Is
Okay, okay.
like if God exists, then why is he hiding himself from us if then acceptance in him is what is required? Like so there's a lot of the atheists on YouTube have some really good videos on that subject that kind of break it down. And there's like debates too and other apologists that hit back with their arguments for why that's not actually an issue. But
I don't
yeah,
see
it's
how
it's a
you
pretty
could
damning
present that.
argument.
Like argue against it. I don't see how you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't find any of the arguments against that compelling because they all like come from like a I think a kind of straw man that there's not possible to be anyone that's earnest in their non-belief.
Yeah,
You know, I think
exactly.
a lot of times it comes down to they think that it's impossible for there to be like a person that seeks God that doesn't believe God, you know? Um or like someone that's atheist that isn't like just covered in sin or whatever. Like it's just little arguments like that that just break down really easily.
But sin is
Um
exclusive to that mindset. So like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like to
so
say that atheist is sinning is like, okay, he's only sinning if he believes in that God. If he doesn't believe in that God, then he's just doing his thing.
I know.
So, but yeah, that's how I would respond to someone on the street.
Yeah, totally.
If I'm getting like so far off track, I'm sorry. I'm talking.
No,
a
you're
lot.
good. Yeah, we probably need to start wrapping up somewhat soon with it, but well, so I'm going to ask about anything you want to say to podcast listeners, but before that, is there anything else you want to say specifically about kind of what you believe right now, or you kind of summed it up already?
Yeah, I think I summed it up already. I I've been really enjoying. There's a part of me somewhere deep down that I think wants to believe in a divine. Like it feels natural, probably because I grew up
Mhm.
that way. And I think I've been using like the role play and the escapism, like with like Dungeons and Dragons specifically, as a little bit of way to like rekindle some of that and to have an emotional experience with people where people can have that experience, but they don't have to be committed. You know what I'm saying? Like I miss
Mm.
the divine drama.
Yeah.
Because like we would join together and cry at Bible and beach and at these
Yeah.
worship revivals, blah blah blah, all thinking it was real. And for me, looking back now, I think it's not. But
Mhm.
like being able to have a shared experience with all my old people where we get to pretend just for a few hours once a week that we are in a different situation, um
Yeah.
and get to have those shared emotions and feelings without them like controlling our lives. I enjoy that a lot. And I don't maybe that is like an emotional immaturity of mine. But I think it's fun and it scratches a little bit of an itch that like I was missing before. So that's honestly that's why I play so much right now.
Yeah. So like playing Dungeons and Dragons like opened up a path for demons to take a hold of your
Yes,
heart.
exactly.
And-
So
No, I like that though. Like you're talking about how similar it is to church and the faith of getting together once a week and pretending like realities exist that don't. Like that's
at least in
that's
this
actually a
way,
pretty good comparison.
no,
Yeah,
in this
that
way, you can make it whatever you want.
yeah, this way there are no rules
There
though,
are no rules.
and that's so fun.
Yeah, and we can at least
Yeah.
compartmentalize it rather than it being like all the time.
Totally, yeah. Because now I don't like have to base my life off of my
Yeah.
like douchebag character that I created.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
just Wednesdays 7 to 10, and then you can just go on throughout your week.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah,
No,
that's
cool,
the only
man.
thing I want to share before you
Mhm.
hit me up with that last one.
Yeah, so we have a couple different podcast listeners. You know, there are a lot of the people from our old surroundings, old situations that are listening because they are sad or scared or you know they just don't see how we could have gone down this path. And there are also listeners who are dipping their toes in the waters of deconstruction or who just you know maybe have left long ago, whatever. Um, what would you say to that first group, the still conventional Christians?
Who are listening
Yeah, who are listening.
and acknowledge that they listen?
Well, they don't have to acknowledge it, but maybe they listen in secret and then never tell us or never tell anybody.
Because I have different things to say to different people for why they're listening.
Sure. Yeah, well, just hit me with whatever. Hit me up with all of
Okay,
them.
okay, because to the people if you're still like a conventional evangelical and you're listening to this and actually enjoying it, at least like you want to catch up with Collier and I, and you are curious as to, what we think now. You're open to new experiences, and to some extent you've deconstructed conventional evangelicalism. I'm really thankful for you. I know we probably harp on your faith too much, and I'm sorry sometimes, because maybe you're not ready to embrace where we are. Maybe you never will, and that's okay. But thank you for at least coming to understand our perspective, catching up with us, and hearing some stories from people who have had very different experiences or have ended up in very different places despite having similar experiences. Thank you. Appreciate you. To evangelicals who are listening, such as like maybe members of my ex's family, or pastors from Southeast who are maybe tuning in, because I'll be specific, not with names, but like about how like I see a lot of like my youth pastors or worship pastors who view my very, very like anti-Christian memes that I share, or like me participating in activities that are like very much not Christian. Like on my story, like I went to play.
Yeah.
Saw a drag show embracing hedonism, alcoholism, sexuality, I don't know, whatever. Just like all the stuff is not Christian at all. Not Christian at all. But they still watch all my stories. And I don't know, maybe they're just tap, 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 to get the notification off, because I think that's definitely some of them. But, for example, I was in, and I told you about this, Collier, I was in that new Quills in J-Town the other day.
Yeah.
And some of the members of Awaken Worship rolled up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and chatted with me. And they're like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, they disagree with me. I know I disagree with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're putting me in a situation where, like, I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know. I just feel like either they are... I'm one of two things to this group of people. I'm a science experiment. I'm an ant inside of an ant farm who they're viewing to see, like, what's it like on the other side. Oh, he went so far. I wonder what's going to happen to him now. Just wait. He's going to come crawling back. Or they want to watch me, but they can't acknowledge it, because if they acknowledge it, they have to acknowledge that the thing that they're with is not perfect. That's probably more for my ex's family. Because I was really worried in that first episode that we recorded that we were going to get sued. I was?
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
No, we were.
Yeah, no, for sure. Here's the thing, though. If Southeast Christian decides to sue the podcast, which I don't think they have any grounds. Because,
Do it.
Yeah,
do it.
Fucking do it, you pussies.
Do it.
No, I don't think they would. Because
what
happens is the evangelical pretty mindset, the facade that they put up that everything is perfect in God's plan, is shattered immediately if they talk to us or if they take any action. So all those people would like for us to stop talking, right?
Yeah.
But they can't say it. Because the moment that they say it, it becomes real. So they have to pretend like we don't exist. But we do exist, so they keep listening. Does that make sense?
No, totally. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Okay.
Definitely. Is there anything specific you'd want to say to them, or
Man up. Go ahead. I would like
Just
to
talk
talk
to
to
us?
you. Yes.
yeah,
This is an open invitation for a conversation.
yeah, yeah? I'm gonna reach out. Like, totally,
I mean,
that would be fun.
I really like that one specific time which someone approached, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Follow up on that. Go ahead. Because
yeah, totally.
I really don't think anyone's going to sit down with us and yell at us because you
No.
and I have legitimate experiences that were negative. But like, I don't know what kind of ground they have to stand on. And the further that they don't talk to us, the more I view what they taught and how they act as bullshit.
Mm,
So like the campus pastor, if he sits down and talks to us or me, it breaks the facade that he has worked so long to keep up. Not everything's perfect. There's harm being done. Some of the beliefs are bullshit. And that hurts the ministry.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely, and yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that like I feel like a lot of times they have to sort of hide or retreat in order to keep the facade of perfection and of like everything being, their specific small theology being the only truth.
Yeah.
If you believe that you're gonna have to hide, unfortunately.
How have they
Yeah.
acknowledged Zach Biner's experiences?
Oh,
through the
completely
church?
ignoring it. Yeah.
Completely ignoring it. They see it.
Yeah.
Because we shared it.
No, yeah, we shared it. I mean, like Southeast is in the movie. Like they don't mention Southeast, but Southeast is in that documentary. A shot of the building, So like they know, they definitely know. But yeah, they're gonna pretend that doesn't exist because they don't want to associate themselves with conversion therapy. Yet they also don't want to condemn it because they still practice it. So that's the thing is they're gonna have
Say
they would
more,
have to
say
take a
more.
stand if they acknowledge they would have to take a stand, and they don't want to do that. They want to be all things to all people in the worst possible way. They just want to like make sure that everyone can come, but they aren't going to acknowledge the harm because then that will alienate the bigots. Basically, that'll alienate different people.
Precisely.
They don't want to do that.
Now, do their like care drives and the money that they give away do a lot of good? I'm sure it does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, they give away a ton of money. Like, I'm sure a lot of that money goes to good causes. Yeah, and good things that help people. Sure.
But when you make a lot of money,
Yeah, but I mean, that's like a percentage of what they're making, which the majority of it goes to upkeep. So like, the billions of dollars that go to upkeep every year could be made to go to different things that help more people.
one of the yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. it's
No,
fine.
I'm sorry. We can get finished up here. This is
Yeah, we can finish it up. I was just gonna say, if you, what would you want to say to the other subset of listeners, basically people that maybe have listened from the beginning, or maybe are just joining us that might find themselves in similar spots or aren't conventional Christians.
Michaela and Talon, we love you and we appreciate you, and thank you for being partners through the bullshit and the experimentation of our viewpoints and time away from you to be on the podcast. Thank you so much. Anyone else? There might be a couple people who've listened that long, but
Yeah, I don't even know if Michaela has.
Talon told me in the car, she's like, I've listened to every episode, at least most of it.
Yeah.
She's like, sometimes
I mean,
if I get bored, I turn it off, but I've at least started every episode and listened to most of them.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to tell you which ones. But I was like, thanks. If you enjoy us, or you're just getting started, or, anyone who's had us on their podcast, we appreciate you very much. We're very thankful. Thanks for sticking it out through everything going on. So I guess that's it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I appreciate getting to hear all this from you too, because I feel like beyond the either podcast adjacent or just kind of random car ride conversations that we have that go a million places, we haven't really had like this type of talk about like exactly what we're feeling, exactly kind of where our views specifically have progressed.
Yes,
And
because we talk about so much
yeah.
of other things. Sometimes
Oh
we,
yeah, and it always gets sidetracked.
yeah, and even this
Uh-huh.
conversation, I know that I sidetracked it a lot, but sorry.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate like getting to hear this from you, and I'm sure that anyone else who, if you've listened to episode 5 of season 1, or even if you hadn't,
And
um,
4.
and 4, yeah, these first 2 episodes, I hope that dear listener, you will enjoy kind of seeing where our views have progressed, or I mean, long story short, we've both become a lot more apathetic, I guess. So
Yeah.
we just don't really give a fuck anymore, and that's
Nope.
I guess that's a view in and of itself, that we don't think that it's important enough to care enough. Um so yeah, I mean, I'm happy where I'm at right now, and you're happy where you're at, right? Like
Well, not with my job, but
mhm.
religiously, I'm content with myself. But
Yeah,
there's some outside circumstances which I wish would change, but it has nothing to do with this
sure,
podcast.
sure. Totally. Well, it's been an interesting year, and like, dude, I'm so
Yeah.
excited for the rest of this season too. Like, I think this will be a incredibly fun season. So
What's God trying to teach you during this season?
yeah, what's God trying to press on my heart during this
Oh God,
season?
I'm gonna barf.
Oh man. Yeah, well, let's end in prayer, shall we?
No.
Um well, so you recommended the Superman Red Sun?
Red Sun. Yeah,
Red Sun.
it was pretty interesting.
So I don't have any media recommendations specifically. It's not really a rec, but today before recording this, I finally finished Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first
Oh
time.
my God!
So
No way,
yeah, so that was
bro.
so good. The finale was
60
incredible. I
seconds.
loved it.
Unpack it. Unpack the show. How do you feel?
Oh God, I mean, dude, I feel like it holds up so much. It holds up so well. Like,
Good.
it's really simple lessons. It's kind of, kind of like some of these child's TV. It's kind of fun for how simple the lessons are. Like there's a bad guy, and either they talk to them and they become good, or they defeat them and they stay bad but not in power anymore. And it's kind of a fun, like very simple solution. But this show like does, even though it has a lot of those simple solutions, it explores a lot of nuance of life, and I think it's really cool. Like the way that the Fire Nation, especially exploring the nuance of the Fire Nation, and like how they're bad, but not everyone in the nation's bad.
It's
It's kind
exactly
of like
what
what
we've
we were
been
talking
talking
about with the
about.
SBC. I mean, I think it's a very intentional comparison on the writers to the United States, the Fire Nation. Like they've done some pretty fucked up stuff in the world. Um, but like not all Americans are bad though, It doesn't mean that we are all imperialists. It doesn't mean that we're all um want to have world domination, even though America's been in like constant war for like almost 100 years, or not 100 years, but like
A
we've been in
long
constant war for
time.
a long
For
time, and we're probably
capitalist
going to continue doing
endeavors.
it. Yeah,
Freaking
but I
oil
think
and
I
shit.
think it does good at like showing that the Fire Nation people aren't bad inherently just because they come from the nation. So I don't know. It's really cool. It's a lot of feminism in there, which is super awesome. Like for how old the show is. Like I fucking love that like the deaf blind girl is like the most badass
She's so
character that never
funny,
gets defeated.
Tom.
Like
Yeah. The
yeah,
second to last episode when they do the play.
dude. I love how they were like, looking at all these sources and one cabbage merchant that knows a strange amount of this knowledge.
Yeah. And they have Toph as like this giant buff guy who goes,
Yeah.
echolocation. So.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good, man. I'm really glad that I finished it because like I just really wanted to get all the references and,
That's good. That's
and
good.
just experience how good it is because it is really good.
That's me going through with like BoJack Horseman right now, like learning all of his existentialism and whatnot.
Yeah. Once you get farther in, I'll have to send you some
Deep cut memes.
YouTube videos. There's what's that one YouTube channel? Some kind of philosophy YouTube channel that does like kind of short, like bite-sized, like breakdown philosophy type of things, and they do a lot of them on BoJack in some of the episodes. So Once you get further in, I'll send you some of those when they do it about those episodes.
That sounds good. Hey, did you know that oh, by the way, that YouTube channel I was talking about earlier, it's called Theremin Trees.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was gonna look for them, but I forgot what they were called. Too.
Theremin Trees. Go look.
Theremin Trees. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, one video that like comes to mind is like a Grooming Minds, the Abuse of Child Indoctrination. Talks a lot about it. They got one on like deconstruction and like why they don't believe in like religion. But like Theremin Trees is an excellent YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, Fire Lord, what's his name? He's played by Mark Hamill.
Oh yes, I actually saw a TikTok today about like a lot of the iconic Mark Hamill voice actor roles, and yeah, he's so good.
He's like Luke Skywalker, the Fire Lord, the Joker,
the Master Ericus from Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. He does it all.
Yeah.
So. Well,
no, it's good. Well, yeah, awesome, man. We will continue this season kicking. Are we gonna do? We're gonna do the Hulu doc. Should we do that?
I'm down. Tune in.
Do an episode on the Hulu doc.
Tune in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So let's binge that, and it seems explosive, and we're gonna hate Liberty more than we already do. I'm sure.
Bro, how can anyone go there now?
Dude, yeah.
We know someone who like just
how?
enrolled. I don't care. I don't care if he hears this. How can you go there knowing what happened? How?
I know, like they've been corrupt from the start, but now it's like obvious. It's everyone knows.
Yes.
Like, come on. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we're gonna do that, and then we got a couple special guest episode coming up. So we're gonna have a wide range of guests, and hopefully keep expanding. Different people that we can talk to. So
that's right.
Yeah, this will be super fun. So if you're listening for the first time here, keep on tuning in to Hopefully Wandering. Follow us on @HopefullyWandering Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to check out our other social media, we're pretty silent, but you can. So check us out on Instagram, interact with us, send us any feedback. We love DMs, emails, whatever you want to send us. Just like let us know what you think.
That's right. Go live it, go be it.